Hi, I'm Sandy with Lightning Tools, and I'm here again with Brett. How are you?
I'm doing well, Sandy. Yeah, very well. Thanks. How are you doing?
Very well, thanks. Yep,
Good,
back
good.
from up north and yeah, back in the heat, and it's
Yeah,
starting to cool off a little bit here, actually.
fantastic. Yeah, I mean, you're still going to have it hot, aren't
Yeah,
you?
yeah.
Through
Yes,
Christmas.
yes, compared. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So cool. Yeah, we've been busy with DeliverPoint this month.
Yep.
It's been a lot of content writing. I'll
Mhm.
say that. So yeah, we've been busy building in some inline help into all of our
Mhm.
products, which I think we mentioned last time.
Mhm.
So you can go into DeliverPoint now and actually find out how to use the product without going to our website or anything.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah,
awesome.
all the documentation is there.
Mhm. Yeah, and so that update is now available on the website. So if you want to either download a free 30-day trial, or if you're an existing customer and you just want to upgrade, then you get version 4.0, which is the new one.
Yeah, absolutely, and there's some great features in it.
Mhm.
We obviously did our webinar last Thursday, and that
Mhm.
the recording from that webinar is available on our website and also
Mhm.
on our YouTube channel. So if you go to our website lightningtools.com and click onto webinars, you're going to find it. And yeah, we did a good sort of overview of DeliverPoint, but then also jumped into some very new features as well.
Mhm.
So I know we perhaps mentioned a couple of these, but yeah, Sandy, do you want to sort of tell me about what your favorite features are?
Sure, sure. And I just wanted to mention too, there were a lot of questions at the end of this webinar, which is always good, I think, when people are engaged enough to ask questions and make their webinar run over time a little bit.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
always
Yeah,
better than silence, and
yeah,
you're
yeah.
never sure if people will care or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's a huge area of interest for people in general, SharePoint permissions management and reporting. We get so many requests for that. But yes, new features besides the in-context help that you mentioned. There's the usage report, which I think is kind of interesting. And that's been asked for fairly frequently from customers, where you can now see which sites, lists, libraries, and files, I think all of those levels, all of those objects, are the most used and also unused. So either of those things is, it might be something important to know depending on the scope that you run the report at. Maybe you want to see which, in a given site, which files are people really not opening. Maybe you created some kind of company mission statement and nobody's reading it or something like that. That's a way to find that out and maybe do something about it. Or then also see, what things are really being used a lot, and maybe that's a site that you need to really spend some time on making sure it's providing the information that people require.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely right. And I think yeah, one of the challenges also that is present is the fact that uh, since people have Microsoft Teams, there's a lot of creation of teams going on,
Mm-hmm.
where yeah, those teams aren't always getting engagement. People may not actually realize they've been added to a team, that sort of thing, or maybe even the permissions aren't set up correctly too.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to see the fact that a team that you created or a site that you created has gone unused
Mm-hmm.
or is not getting as much usage as you would have thought, um, the report actually acts as a trigger to produce the discover permissions report and the sharing links report as well. So you can make sure that the right people have got access, which may
Mm-hmm.
have been a stumbling block to whether they can, yeah, obviously access it or not. So
Right.
so yeah,
Yeah.
that's a fantastic built-in report. Just seeing some high-level usage information,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, like I said, we can get to the other reports from that too. So yeah, whether you select a file or whether you select a site, that becomes the scope for the reports and for the operations. So you can then get into sort of the transferring of permissions or
Mm-hmm.
copying permissions and sharing link reports and things like that too.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
I think I recall that during the webinar, you made a special point and emphasis about the scope and making sure that you're always sure that you're looking at the right scope and what scope means to deliver point. So if you want to maybe expound on that a little bit, because I find that when I'm talking to other customers too, that's a part that it really bears some explanation to make sure that they're using that right.
Yeah, certainly. So if you look at how SharePoint provides the permissions management, it's always on an object at a time. So you are looking at a site's permissions, or you're looking at a list's permissions, or a folder's permissions, but it's always just that one thing that you're looking at. What DeliverPoint allows you to do is access a site, or it could be a list or a library or a site collection, and that becomes your scope, meaning it's got things beneath it. It's got child objects. Yeah, a site might have subsites as child objects. It may have lists and libraries, not just inside the site that we selected, but also the child sites. They will also have lists and libraries, and each of those lists and libraries are going to have folders and subfolders, and there's going to be files as well, either in the root or inside the subfolder. So what we can do when we're producing a report is be able to report on multiple things in one go. And you don't have to run a report on, say, every single file or every single folder to actually determine whether or not it inherits permissions and then looking into who's got permission to it. You could just say, well, I'm interested in what's going on inside this site and everything beneath it that might have unique permissions. So the scope would be the site. Let's say it's called the sales site. We select the sales site. It could also go through the different regions, which are subsites, and the lists and libraries where those permissions are unique. So then you're focusing a lot less time looking at individual objects and really just sort of acting on what shows up inside that report and what's got unique permissions. So yeah, the scope could be a child site in its own right, but you're looking at everything beneath it, or it could be a top level site and everything beneath it as well. So yeah, that's pretty much what the scope is. And you could have multiple scopes. So you could have two sites that are siblings, or you could have two different sites in different site collections, that they could be your scope as well. So,
or maybe a hub site and its associated sites,
yeah,
right? Because you can
exactly.
get a view like that in DeliverPoint, where you can see which are your hub sites, and then you could select that plus its associated associated sites. So if you're no longer using subsites, for example, but that's then in essence letting you report on that kind of a scope.
Yeah, exactly right. And granting permissions through the hub sites and the associated sites is really good because they've each got their own unique permissions. So being able to actually go through and select all the associated sites and then adding a user to them is really useful. So
Yep, for sure.
yeah, great. And just sort of on that point as well of the unused objects, one of the things that sort of can be challenging when you're looking at that tree view is actually trying to depict which ones you own as well. So yeah, any site collection that you do have read access to, you're going to see inside that tree view. But it can be daunting to actually try and find all the ones that you are the owner for, and having to remember the names, you can search on them and so on. So now we've built in this brand new view where you can actually see all of the site collections that you are the owner for, and it's much easier then to take responsibility for those site collections and to use that as the reporting tool. So you can use that to set your scope as well for the site collection and report and manage those permissions within it.
Because those are the sites where you're actually going to be allowed to manage the permissions on, not
Yeah,
not all the ones that you can see, even though, and that we run into that a fair bit in speaking with customers too. Just because you may be a SharePoint admin or even a global admin, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have full control rights to every site. And
correct.
sometimes people think they do, but so just as with all of the operations DeliverPoint does, you can't do things with DeliverPoint that your account can't otherwise do in SharePoint, but you can, manage that all in bulk. Or if you are the admin, you can make yourself the owner of, of a site if you want to be able to manage permissions of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of that comes down to the limitations of the SharePoint framework too. So one of the advantages that we have in DeliverPoint for SharePoint on premises is the fact that you have got the DeliverPoint auditor role and the DeliverPoint operator role there. So that will elevate privileges from the current user to another user. So you're elevating privileges typically to the DeliverPoint service account, which would be a farm admin and have access to everything.
Right.
But yeah, you can't elevate privileges inside the SharePoint framework model. So you have to do everything in the context of the current user. Yeah, if you do have access to everything, you can access everything, but that's not always the case, as you mentioned, for SharePoint administrators.
Yeah, so I guess that was really a change in SharePoint, right? Because when you're a farm admin, you really do have access to everything, I think, if I recall.
Yes.
It's been a little while,
Yeah.
but
Or at least you could create a user policy or something
mm,
like that,
mm,
which yeah, it was another way of doing it. You could actually just like set yourself full control to everything. Although they were a little bit frowned upon, they were there. So
mm. Yeah, so in SharePoint Online, you don't even have that capability
no,
as far as I'm aware.
no, that's
Yeah,
absolutely
so
right.
you could have people, creating sites that you, as the admin, really know nothing about. You'll see them in the admin center, but but
Yeah,
not if they're Teams private channel.
great. But to some respects, I mean, that is also useful, because just because
Yes,
you're the admin doesn't necessarily mean that you should be seeing some of
right.
this content.
Right.
So
Mhm.
yeah, absolutely right. So
Mm,
good. Yeah, there was a couple of features that we
mm,
mentioned that we talked about that were released in 4.000. That's the my own site collections and also the usage reporting.
mhm,
In general as well, we actually made the product a lot easier to use. I think we're spent a bit more time looking at some of the labels and the tooltips and so on. We redesigned the tooltips so they're more helpful. And there's also links out to our help center and how to raise a support ticket and things like that.
right.
I think it's far more intuitive to use the product than
Yeah.
it was last month, and it was intuitive anyway. But yeah, hopefully
hmm
people will be able to find their way around it a bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that should really help a lot.
Yeah.
And there's also in that same menu with the help, there's a place to put in a feature request too, which I'd like to see people making use of,
Yeah,
because we
definitely.
definitely take the customer feedback.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There has been a lot of feature requests that have made it into our products,
hmm
and yeah, you help us to design the products. That's
Right.
absolutely true. Yeah,
Yeah.
we do rely on that.
Mhm.
Great, excellent. So we've got another release coming up next month, because here we are at the end of August. I don't know what
Mhm.
happened to August at all,
I don't
but
know either.
kids went back to school
Vacations and things.
today
Yeah.
and so on.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, so yeah, we're moving into September, which means it's a new product month, and we're going to be focused on the Lightning conductor.
hmm
So
Yeah, looking
yeah,
forward to that.
it's going to be some nice, I guess, subtle features, but really powerful features. And again, this is based on a lot of the feedback that our customers have given us that they want to see inside the product. But yeah, the Lightning conductor, if you're not familiar with it, it's a really powerful content aggregation tool. When we say that, a lot of people just think of SharePoint list and library aggregation, because that's what they're used to with things like the content query in the past, or the site contents, Webpack. But really, we're way beyond that now. We've got a no-code way of aggregating content through the Microsoft Graph, so you can get to anything through the Microsoft Graph. You can get to Planner and to build some task views. You can also get to OneDrive as well as document
Right.
libraries to build document views and so on.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's a really powerful product to
Yep.
build some content reports. And yeah, you're not just displaying that inside of SharePoint, but also inside of Teams as well. So
Mhm, mhm. Yep. Yeah, so yeah, we'll probably talk next time about what new features are coming for Lightning Conductor, but just like our other recent releases, one of the things is that we're adding the in-context help more too, because there is a lot to Lightning Conductor. There are a lot
yeah,
of
yeah,
options.
yeah. I'm going to
And
need that whole month to write that content for sure. So yeah, but exciting times.
Mhm.
That's going to be great.
Yep.
And speaking of exciting times, we've also got an event coming up.
Right.
There's a lot of events in October actually.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
When
there
people
is
are
Microsoft.
tired of being inside and ready
Yeah.
to go do things.
Well, here in the UK, there's the South Coast Summit, which is one that I've not actually been able to get to. It always seems to be run on the half term
Mm.
for schools, which means I'm usually tied up doing something with kids, and that's the same case this year too. But we also have Microsoft Ignite, so that's another online event. So in the past, we used to go out to Orlando or wherever it
Mm.
was, and yeah, be an amazing event. But that is online, so 100%
Or
recommend you.
mostly online anyway.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. So they're actually hosting it in Seattle, and I think there's going to be certain regional in-person events going on,
Mm.
like in Microsoft UK and so on. So there will be some people that are invited to that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you'll be able to register for the online event too, and watch that content. There's going to be some great content, some great announcements, and so on. But we also have collab days here in the UK, and that's being run for the second time this year, and that will be at the National Museum of Computing in Bletchley Park. So you can go to collabdays.org and click onto the Bletchley Park, and you'll see the information about it. So we're just going through announcing our speakers at present, but there's some great speakers, some great content, and our keynote is a little bit different this year. Previously, we had Dermot Turing, who's Sir Alan Turing's nephew, do our keynote. But the keynote this year is you're going to have to do some walking. The keynote is going to be a tour of the museum. So you're going to see the world's largest working collection of computers, or historic computers, I should say. So you're going to see the bomb, you're going to see the Colossus and so on, and be able to go and visit the Witch Gallery, which is just amazing.
What does that mean? Which gallery?
So, that has the Witch computer
I guess
in
I
it.
don't know that one. I don't remember hearing about that one.
Yeah. So so some amazing machines. I mean, just to see them working still is just absolutely incredible, and feel the heat that's being produced by them as well. But yeah, some it'll be a fantastic keynote, and some great sessions there too.
Very cool. Very cool.
And it's free.
Okay. And then a little bit later that month is the North American Collaboration Summit. I'm
Yep.
speaking at that one, and Lightning Tools is a sponsor, so we'll have a booth
Yeah.
there too. And I also that's turned out to be the same time as Ignite, and so there's an Ignite watch party going on at the summit, so that should also be fun.
Fantastic. Yeah, that'd be really good. And yeah, that Collab Summit is if you like, the parent of the Collab Days. So there's the European Collab Summit, and there's also the North American Collab Summit. And then Collab Days is a one-day version of that, which is the more sort of regional event. So
Right.
wonderful.
Cool.
Well, some exciting things to look forward to. And
Yes.
I guess I will catch you in a couple of weeks' time. We'll be
Yep.
talking about Lightning Tools, and next week we'll be talking about Enlightening. So
Yep. Okay, sounds good.
yeah.
I'll
All
talk to
right.
you later, Brett.
Will
Okay.
do. See you, Sandy. Bye bye.
Bye.